Hi, I'm David with EV World News. We talk about electric vehicles, green energy, and the stock markets. And today, I'm very pleased to have Mr. Raymond Wang from Greenland Technologies join Bill and I in the studio today. How are you doing, Ray?
Doing well, doing well. Honored to be here.
Well, please, I ran into you at NobleCon in Florida about a month ago, and that was just kind of by chance. And I saw it's like, I've actually talked about your stock on the show before. So
Mhm.
on Fridays, my format and is typically we'll review a bunch of EV stocks, and sometimes we'll even look at plays to make in the options trades and different things like that. And we've discussed your stock before because it's come up on a list of electric vehicle stocks, and I really didn't know much about it. And so when I saw you were speaking there, I'm like, oh, I'm going to attend that, and I'm really glad we got to meet because, as I was saying before the show, you're sort of like one of those rare gems that nobody's really heard of, and yet you're on Nasdaq, and your company, at least in 21 and 22, was making money.
Yep,
And,
yep.
and that's pretty amazing. And so Greenland Tech, you make transmissions, you
Mhm,
make electric motors, and you make electric heavy equipment now,
mhm.
correct? Now,
That's right.
so the company, yeah, now I've noticed several of the companies that are in your organizational chart. They
Mhm,
all have they appear to be Chinese companies, correct?
mhm.
Okay,
Yes, yes. Mhm.
and so but you're based in New Jersey, I believe.
Yep. Yeah, just outside
Okay.
of Princeton.
Okay,
Mhm,
nice, nice.
Ooh,
mhm.
And you've
my
been
daughter used to live there.
Oh, fantastic,
Yeah.
fantastic. I'm a Jersey boy. I've been here since I was 5, so over the
Oh,
past 35 years, I was born in Chicago, had a little stint in Florida, got tired of the rain, and came up to New Jersey.
very nice, very nice. And you've been with Greenland for 4 years,
Mhm,
but you started with one of the holding companies,
mhm.
correct? And then when did Greenland become Greenland?
Mhm. Yeah, so we became public on the Nasdaq via SPAC in 2019. So
Okay.
we were one of the early adopters of the SPAC model. We kind of became one of the models on the street on what to do and what not to do with SPACs.
mm.
But at that time, there weren't that many people that did it, and on paper, it sounded fantastic. And I won't go into the trials and tribulations of that whole process, but just like with business, you always adapt, you make the best of it. That's when we joined the NASDAQ under symbol GTEC. And it's been a phenomenal journey since that time.
Nice, nice. Now, the original company,
Mhm,
and I'm not going to try to pronounce it,
mhm.
um, has been making things for the tractor industry for a long time, right? It's much older.
Yes, yes.
When did that start?
Um, yeah, the company's called Zhongcai Machinery. We started in a humble factory in China back in 2006,
Mm.
and our main business is transmissions and drivetrains for material handling vehicles, mostly forklifts. But since that time, we've evolved to develop drivetrains for products like tractors, heavy equipment, up to 80 plus tons in size, marine equipment, even light commercial EV applications as well. Um, and that's what we started the company in 2006 with. And right now we support over 100 different OEM brands, including all of the tier ones, like BYD, Linde, Hitachi, Toyota, just to name a few of them.
It was interesting because when I heard you speak at NobleCon, I remember you mentioning that your electric motors had the
Mhm.
highest gross profit
Mhm.
of your whole line, and I thought that was quite fascinating. And is it because you guys are one of the original people maybe in that space?
Mhm. Yes. I wouldn't say as an original standpoint, but it's part of our whole brand and culture here. We don't try to be a Me Too company in any
Mhm.
way. We always focus on the quality of our products, and that leads our entire offering to our clients and our brand. So we actually are the premier product on the street. We are the most expensive component, but the reason being is because we are the highest quality out there,
Mm.
and that's the quality that these tier one brands need to have faith when they trust our products behind their products, behind their brands and their markets. So our big claim to fame is we are a high-tech enterprise from a manufacturing standpoint. So even with China being the manufacturing hub of the world, we're on the tippy top. We're the cream of the crop for manufacturing capabilities. And that's something we're really proud of. What that's afforded us is not only do we offer the premier product with our clientele, but it allows us to continue to innovate to produce a higher margin, higher quality product that we can provide and disseminate. Whereas everyone else is trying to me too and try to catch up to us with a lower price offering. But that's not our game.
Yeah. Now, are you guys in the battery development business too, or do you guys outsource all the batteries?
We outsource all of our batteries. So we evolved Greenland to become an OEM ourselves. So we've been a component manufacturer since 2006 to 2019. And then when I joined the company and we became a public company in 2019, then I want to evolve the offering of Greenland as a whole to become an OEM ourselves. And that's when we tapped into the electrification of the heavy machinery industry. So these are products like loaders, excavators, things you see on a construction site, because no one else is doing it today. So we took our manufacturing know-how, we dove into that product. And one of the key things to our success is we focus on where we can deliver the best quality. And to produce the best product, it's a team-based effort. So coming back to your question, we did not try to re-engineer, redesign, dive into battery technology, because we wouldn't be able to deliver the quality that we stand by behind our brand fast enough. So we partnered with CATL, same batteries in the Tesla, Ford, GM, to power our equipment. And we actually are one of their larger usages from a mobility standpoint. So the batteries in our equipment goes up to 282 kilowatts, 660 volts, which will weigh over 2 tons in size. But
It's a
when
big
you have a
battery.
40,000-pound piece of equipment, you need that power and oomph to get the job done.
That's only 50% larger than the one in the Hummer.
So of course, when anybody asks about electric vehicles, their first question is, how far does it go? Well, in the case of a front end loader or a trenching machine or whatever, you don't determine that by how far you can go, because you're just moving back and forth across the construction site. So the question becomes, what kind of a work shift do you get out of a battery that big?
Yep. So it's 9 hours of use, of actual true use. The key thing about our products is they're not retrofits in any ways. They are built from the ground up specific for electric applications. One of the advantages of that is from an idle time standpoint. Right now, idle time with diesel equipment is a very common endeavor. You want to keep it going, keep the machine warm and running so it can work when you need it to. However, with our products being electric, they're turnkey and go. You don't need that warm up or idle time. But that behaviorism, we still see that on job sites. Folks are going to just leave it on between shifts. But with our product, because it's built specifically for electric, it's not one single motor that powers the entire machine. It's actually, the functions are divided up between over 7 different motors. But what that allows is during idle, unless it's being used, that engine isn't on and drawing power. So one story I love to tell is a fleet operator demoing our unit on their site for over a week, because we love demos. Forgot that the machine was on. He got a call, came out of the machine, and since he's so used to hearing the diesel, and these electric machines are mouse quiet when idle, he didn't realize it was on. Left, went about his day. Came back 4 hours later and was like, oh my gosh, it's on this whole time. I killed the battery. It used less than 1%.
Yeah.
So we got a call right away. He's like, hey, this happened, left it on for 4 hours, and it used less than 1%. He's like, I love it. All my doubts and concerns about the battery life, gone.
Yeah.
That's great. That's great.
Now that we talked about this before you came on, obviously, if you're working on a brand new site, right, you're helping construct an interstate, or you're, leveling out an area for a new subdivision, chances are you're not going to have 220 volts or, 440 volt electricity available to charge that. So obviously this has specific needs sort of beyond the off-road. It's sort of an on-road if you gather what I'm saying. So how do you address that?
Yep. And I love that question because from our standpoint, the big thing is we find that the overall market is starting to get very jaded of electric, right? There's a big concern of overpromising capabilities, whether it's range or whatever have you of that.
Right.
So our philosophy and culture that we've instilled across our heavy brand, which is focused on the electric heavy equipment, is to be focused on true application for our equipment. So what I mean by all of this is our equipment is best suited for yard work, operations where it's never going to leave that yard. So like waste management, agriculture, something where it has access to that power.
Right.
That's the sweet application for our equipment. For any type of off-highway in that nature, where it's going to be on a job site without power for 2 to 4 months while they're doing the earthwork, though there are solutions, you start losing the benefits of the equipment. You can take these big Connex boxes, convert it into one big battery to charge it, but then you're no different from transporting diesel onto that job site to transport these batteries. So you kind of lose the advantages. So our sales team, we're very clear about that. We do get a lot of interest from DOTs at the state level across the nation looking to utilize our equipment for that. But we're very truthful about what our products can do, where they can't do, where they shine, where they lack. And that's really gone a long way to help support our brand and trust.
Now, I've had electric forklifts since the 90s, or I say I had a warehouse and I used electric forklifts way back then. And so that's not necessarily new, but I'm assuming now those didn't have, lithium ion batteries in them. The technology I'm sure has changed. What has really changed in the forklift business in, say, the last 30 years as far as electrification?
Yep. It's actually just that point that's changed on a global scale, particularly outside of the United States, which I get to. But on a global scale, because the technology is available and the economics behind it are extremely favorable, overseas in China and Europe, 3 out of 4 forklifts sold are lithium powered. Right? And right now, about 9 out of 10 forklifts sold are electric already in this current environment. And this is a very dramatic shift. Though the technology for lithium powered forklifts is over a decade old, the adoption has finally hit on a global scale. Overseas in China, for example, you can get a high quality tier 1 lithium powered forklift for right around 15,000, 10 to 15,000. So there's no premium for this technology, and the advantages are through the roof compared to their lead acid power or even propane or diesel. In the United States, we've been seeing a dramatic shift towards that as well. 10 years ago, less than 10% of forklifts sold were electric. Right now, we're actually coming up to over 60%. Which is great. And it's really led by Toyota's Raymond brand. They've been doing a phenomenal job capturing that market and establishing it. The only challenge with it is they're doing so primarily with their lead acid battery technology. One of the ways that they've been able to get adoption is they've developed a wonderful service model to be able to provide that. But it's going to be a big move to shift their entire service model from lead acid to lithium. So they have it available as an option. And once the market's ready for that economically, then they'll make that switch over. So it's going to happen. It's just a matter of time.
Nice. You've been focused on batteries. Is there any role for fuel cells, hydrogen fuel cells in this particular market? That would, you obviously have to get hydrogen from somewhere in a tank of it. So is there a play for that? Because, Toyota's been heavily involved in fuel cells for, decade and a half at least. And I'm thinking that there's some companies that are doing some forklifts that utilize that, although I haven't seen anything lately about it. So is there a role for that in this?
There is a potential role for it, but it's very niche. The advantages of the fuel cell really coming is if your site has a large enough footprint and a deep enough wallet to create a hydrogen fuel generator on site, then the economics are there and it's a wonderful solution. So you mentioned the forklifts powered by fuel cells. Those are beginning to enter the markets on large warehousing that have over 1 million square feet of a footprint, because those sites have the capability to put that hydrogen generator on. Once that site is generating that hydrogen to power their equipment, it makes perfect sense. For our equipment, there are markets for that, but it's fewer and further between. So you're talking about yard applications where they have, let's say, 50 to 100 plus acres on it. So let's say if a waste management company, like the actual brand Waste Management, some of their sites are huge, significant. They're operating over 3 to 5 dozen pieces of heavy equipment per day. For that operation, it makes sense. But if you're a mom and pop landscaping company utilizing a loader to put some mulch into the back of a pickup truck, probably not.
Right, right.
Hmm. Yeah, I guess it depends on the scale. I was always thinking about if you were unloading trains as an example, at a site onto trucks, it would make a lot of sense.
Yep.
Especially if like somebody was moving gravel and things like that. It seemed to make a lot of sense on your job site. And in some of the pictures, it shows the stuff on farms. Now, are the machines that I've seen, which is these three, the front end loader and um, the excavator.
Yep.
Those don't really have the same farming application. So I assume there's some farming applications coming down the road.
Yes. So we do have more farm and agriculture specific product development coming down the pike. But there are actually many applications for particularly the front loaders, the first two pictures. So let's say if you are a large poultry or livestock farmer, you're utilizing either front loader or a tractor with a bucket attachment on it to load feed into the hoppers, clean out the barns, things of that nature. The huge advantage from an agriculture standpoint is because these are electric products, there's no emissions. So there's no risk of fossil fuel spillage in any way. So if you're operating this inside of a greenhouse, you don't have to worry about a lot of sound disrupting your livestock, stressing them out. You don't have to worry about emissions being built up in the barns or fossil fuel spillage getting into the feed and getting into your livestock. It's a wonderful application for that. Plus, also from a power standpoint, as we mentioned, right now, if you're a farmer on a rural land, you have to buy, transport, and store diesel on site to power your equipment, which can be a hassle. And God forbid that there's a leakage. EPA would jump all over that farm real fast.
Right.
But for this, there's no need for it. So if they're able to install a charger on it, then they do the work during the day, plug it in at night, and then it's ready to go in the morning.
Are there any, all these are big, heavy industrial equipment. Are there any plans to introduce scaled down versions like a Kubota type of tractor for garden type work or for
skid steer,
bobcat scale unit?
Yeah, so we're always exploring opportunities and markets on that one. Our focus, however, was on the off-highway heavy equipment over 10,000 pounds. Reason being is right now, I forecast that we have a 7+ year runway to establish this market before we get some competitors on it. The reason being is the natural organic development for this technology is going to be in those smaller products, the skid steers, the mini excavators, things of that nature. It's going to take them probably 1 to 3 years to come into market, establish it, carve out some market share. Another 2 to 3 years to establish production and scalability. And then the R&D will come into heavier equipment. It's a lot easier to prototype a 1-ton mini excavator in a garage. Hard to do a 40,000 pound, 14-foot tall piece of machine. But we're able to do so because we have the manufacturing capability. So we are leveraging our strength to get ahead of the curve, and we have a 7-year runway to establish the market.
Cool. Hey, I want to comment because we can see the logo for the HEVI company in the background, the bison.
Yep.
If
That's
you look
right.
above my head,
Yep.
can you see in the?
I love it. I love it.
There you go.
Oh, that's fantastic.
I sculpted that.
Did you really?
Yeah.
Wow, that's very impressive.
Well, thank you. Yeah, it was in my vagabond artist days.
But that's great. We always have to hold on and cherish the journey that we take to get to
I'm
where
just
we are.
curious as to how did you end up picking the bison as the company mascot?
Yep. So first off, I gotta to really commend you and thank you for identifying that is a bison. A lot of folks just think it's a bull. But no, the reason being is so Heavy itself. We are a U.S. based company. We're headquartered in New Jersey. Conveniently about 10 miles from where I live, from a commute standpoint. And our focus is on establishing the market in the US. Yeah, I look at it like Broadway. We make it here, we make it anywhere.
Right.
But the need for it primarily, we have a significant need as a country for this. We operate the highest amount of heavy equipment on a global scale. We produce a good portion of our products here, yet they're a major contributor towards the carbon emission problem that we have. A single piece of heavy equipment produces 5 times the amount of carbon that a transit bus will, or over 20 times the amount as a car. And we have about 1.2 million pieces of heavy equipment operating in the United States at any given time. It's a lot. It's a lot. It takes over 40 acres of forestry to offset the carbon emissions for a single machine for a single year on a single shift. That's a lot. Wow. That's a lot. Yeah. So we're in a position to make a difference. And we chose the bison because of the overall story and journey of the bison itself, where because of overhunting, because of industrialization, we decimated the populations to near extinction. However, with a focus on sustainability as a nation, we came together to protect this species, to protect the environment. We've brought it back successfully from the brink of existence, of ceasing to exist, to now they're flourishing today. And that's the entire mission of the story.
There is an interesting connection here. You're into heavy equipment, right?
Mm-hmm.
The original reason, originally they were killing bison basically to get, some fur coat, the equivalent of fur coats and things. But eventually what led to the mass slaughter of the bison was the need for leather.
Yes.
And they found that the leather on bison, using a special technique developed, I think it was in Germany, was perfect for building the leather belts that drove the machinery of the early industrial revolution back east in the 1880, 90 period of time. It was that leather that was made into drive belts, the power equipment, that led to the near extinction of the bison. So it's kind of an interesting parallel there.
I love that, actually. I did not know that, but I'm going to keep that and take that away. That just reminds me, as we are trying to promote the brand, we always do a lot of events and giveaways. And my team was, trying to be creative, think about ways that we can stand out. So they're like, let's have an event. We'll serve bison burgers, or we'll give away bison leathered keepsakes. Right. And I was like, team, we can't be slaughtering a mascot. It gives the wrong impression.
Here you should go and cut a deal with some of the Native American tribes in Montana and Wyoming. I'm sure they'd be happy to talk to you.
It's interesting. A lot of folks who are raising money, especially in the battery space, their plans, they work projects in combination with American Indian tribes because there's special incentives to create manufacturing on the reservations. And it's quite interesting. This is a very common theme to see folks in this space doing something with American Indian tribes.
Mhm.
Anyways, we had a question from somebody in the chat. Does government offer any subsidy or tax credits on these heavy electric commercial vehicles like we get on cars and and on heavier trucking equipment?
Mhm. So when we started and launched Heavy in 2019, there was none. The biggest challenge is because they're off-highway heavy equipment, they're outside of the DOT jurisdiction. And
Mhm.
all of the EV incentives were focused around a DOT. It's going to be what's the class size for your registration and blah, blah, blah. So it unfortunately naturally excluded our product lines because the
So
legislators didn't know it's an option. There was no other offering. We're the first ones to do it in the United States. So we are a pioneer in this space, and part of that means that we bear the responsibility to educate legislators, develop this market, and push for incentives. So lobbying is an effort on our side. Back in 2021, I was extremely proud because through our efforts, we supported the very first consumer incentive for off-highway heavy equipment that was launched in Maryland. It was the first of their kind in the entire nation. And after that, then many other states followed suit as they learned that there is an offering to be able to reduce carbon emissions. It has a big impact, and no one wanted to be last. So, right now at this stage, 19 states have followed suit, offering specifically worded off highway heavy equipment, each trying to one up each other. Our focused market is on the mid Atlantic region. So, after Maryland introduced a 20% tax credit, then New Jersey, New York one-upped it with a 35% tax grant. And Pennsylvania just one-upped them with a 45%. So it's a significant investment, but it makes a huge difference because, again, if that incentive is able to offset just one machine, that's the same thing as replacing over 2 dozen cars.
Oh,
So
yeah.
you get a big bang for the buck on
so
that one.
what does a Gel 5000 normally retail for?
Yep, it retails for a 250,000. Now that is actually the exact same price as a comparable diesel sells. That was important for us because for adoption, we saw for adoption to happen, our primary markets are other companies. We're a B2B business. Not that many private owners for large scale equipment, at
Right.
least not that we can sustain a business off of. So, because of that, it had to make sense on the bottom line for them to be able to embrace electrification, cleaner options. So, there's no purchase price premium on it, there's no sticker shock at all. And then, oh, I'm sorry, Bill, you're about to say?
Yeah, I was going to say, so I'm assuming that someone's going to buy one of these. They're going to go to their lender of choice, probably I bet their bank they do business with.
Mhm.
Is there any pushback that you're getting from the bank saying it's electric? I don't know. We can only finance diesel for the last 50 years. Is that an issue they have to deal with?
Actually, it is not. Well, the only issue is just the knowledge standpoint. Especially if they're working with a smaller bank, they'll be like, electric, what's that? We have to do some research, and then they'll take it away and reach out to us. But we actually have been working with many of the leasing and financial institutions on it, and they actually are extremely, extremely favorable and pleased by it. Because for a piece of diesel equipment, the maintenance is a major factor. The efficiency will continue to drop. And then at that 10 to 12-year mark, then they have to completely replace the engine. And that's a major expense. And for our equipment, because there's so few moving parts, I mean, that's standard with an EV story, but where the advantage comes in is you don't have to worry about the overall maintenance schedule as you would from a diesel for the longevity of the product. Because if someone misses a oil change or lack of lubrication for the belts, then that's going to destroy this piece of business asset on a job site. But for ours, you just keep the grease points lubricated, keep her lubed, keep her cleaned, and she's good to go. And when
Okay.
it comes down to that 10 to 12-year mark, then you just replace the battery. And instead of being a 2-month endeavor to rebuild an engine, this is about 15 minutes. We have a radiator unit in front of our battery, so we just have to unplug, dismount that, unplug the battery, winch that out, put the new one in, plug it back in, and we're good to go.
Okay.
Wow.
Most of this diesel systems, all of the actuators, the buckets and arms and everything, operate off of hydraulics.
Mm-hmm.
Is that the way yours are? Are you using electrics to actuate those?
Mm-hmm. So at this stage, they're just hydraulic powered.
Okay.
The key thing, one of the ways that we were able to keep the costs down is because our equipment right now, besides the new power technology, there's not that many bells and whistles on it. The key thing that we wanted to impart is that if you've operated diesel equipment for over 30 years, and anyone in that field, their entire tenure is going to be with diesel equipment, because the only thing that came before it is steam power in the 1900s.
Right.
But if you're a 30-year operator of it, you get behind the wheel of ours, you're not going to be shocked. You're not going to be, taken aback and trying to figure out how to operate this like some EV companies that try to reinvent the design.
All the levers work the same.
All the levels work the same. They're in the same positions. We didn't go too far with the bells and whistles, at this stage. Now, in the future, there may be some advantages to redesigning the hydraulic systems, but that would become a premium upon it. And we didn't want to enter it at this stage. We wanted to enter the market, penetrate the market, establish some market share, just to show people what we're all about, and also that this technology is available and it can get the job done.
Yeah. You mentioned replacing the battery, and I know somebody's going to ask this.
Mm-hmm.
What's it going to cost to replace that battery? And of course, obviously, if we're talking 5-10 years down the road, hopefully the costs are going to continue to come down.
And I just remember these are enormous batteries compared to car batteries.
Yeah.
They are. And what would you guess the price would be for a 2-ton?
Now or in 2030?
Actually, from a now price for an LFP.
Now price, what was it? 250 watts, kilowatts?
282. Yeah.
280 kilowatts. I'm going to guess somewhere north of 20,000.
Yeah.
I was gonna guess 30.
Mm-hmm. So it will actually be double that. It'll be at this current price is about 60,000 to replace that battery. Costs are coming down, but focusing on current state right now, it's about 60,000 to replace. But that actually is the entire bulk of the replacement itself, because the labor is so minimal. It's not going to be a long job. So it's 60,000 for our largest vehicle to replace. It's about 15 minutes, and that's actually comparable right now to an engine rebuild. Because if a company was to completely rebuild an engine with the labor, with the parts, and the time, it's north of 60,000.
Oh, now, really? Well,
how do you feel?
I don't do that very often, so
hopefully you don't have to.
Yeah, it's comparable to what if I were a heavy equipment operator and I've got an old piece of equipment that needs to be rebuilt. It's going to cost me somewhere in that same ballpark.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Now, how about a diesel rebuild cost versus replacing the battery, and length of time that those two events could occur?
Yep. Yeah. So from a diesel standpoint, you mean rebuilding the engine to get that diesel reoperational? Yeah. So right now, again, particularly in the US, we have a massive shortage of technicians, particularly on the heavy equipment side, to operate. And because the engine rebuild is such a labor-intensive process that takes a measure of skill, quite a bit of skill, it's been challenged, which is terrible because heavy equipment is a backbone for many industries that we have in the US, and there's just not the people there with the skill or desire to work on them. So I bring that up because some wonderful companies out there that pride themselves with the service have been bogged down where it can take upwards of 2 months to get an engine rebuilt. Because there's just not enough folks to work on it. So that's a major challenge. Right now, that is an advantage for us because the effort to take it is mostly focused on a safety standpoint, as long as our team is conducting the removal of the battery and installation of the battery in a safe manner, then it's actually not as technically advanced. It's not as technically demanding as an engine rebuild would be. So it's a lot easier of a job for us. I really hope that changes. I know at the federal and state level, there's a lot of effort going to try to incentivize people to designify getting your hands dirty, getting behind these wonderful jobs and opportunities out there, and that it'll change and turn around. But we haven't seen it yet, unfortunately.
Our local metropolitan community college here, I think, if I'm not mistaken, at least did. They may still offer a diesel technician training course just for that purpose.
Yep.
Let's talk a minute about the chargers, because you're also when you buy one of these pieces of equipment, you get pretty good sized charger that comes with it. And then if you want to upgrade, you can get even a bigger charger. So tell us a little bit about that.
Yep. Yeah, that's actually the number one question that we would get. How do I charge your equipment? And our machines are DC powered machines. So any level 3 fast charger can charge our equipment from dead in less than 30 minutes. But they're few and far between. Here in New Jersey, there's a little over 250 charging stations across the state, and most of them are Tesla. So not practical if you're a farm, to put a DCFC. But what we had to do is we actually developed our own line of mobile DC chargers. So they're extremely small and portable. There's 2 different models that take either 220 or 480 volt power. But instead of having to do a big permitted install of a charging station, these plug in and charge our machines just like you would a laptop or a cell phone. The 220 literally uses practically a washing machine plug to be able to charge our equipment.
Yeah.
And they're very affordable. That 220 that you mentioned comes with every single machine that we have. So no one's going to buy a machine and be stuck, without a way to charge it. That will take a bit longer. So for our largest piece of equipment from dead, it'll take over 22 to 26 hours to fully charge it. But that's perfect for that application where I mentioned that landscaping company. They just need to operate that loader to put mulch into the back of a client's pickup truck when they order it. So they're maybe doing a 5-minute trip every hour or so. They just keep that plugged in, trickle charge it through the day, and it's good to go. Or even if you are, let's say, doing snow removal, you're working a yard. We would not recommend our equipment to be on the roads to clear the snow, but utilize our equipment in the salt silos. So you can take it, load up the plows with salt, and then put it back on the charger while they do their thing for an hour, come back, and then it's ready to go. And then you can keep going until the snow stops. So that's the application for the 220. And then we have a 480 volt upgrade. It's about the size of a carry-on luggage. And that can fully charge our largest machine from dead in about 8 hours.
Okay.
I think I heard you mention at that conference that some of this equipment can run for almost 8 hours before running the battery.
Yeah,
or 8 or 9 hours.
They're all designed to operate over 8 hours for doing actual work. Because these are business assets, if it can't last a full shift, then they're really toys at the end of the day. And they're too niche. It has to handle a full shift. That's why we utilize such large batteries to give it that power to get the job done. And that was key and critical. Now, especially for yard applications, very few do we come across are truly utilizing the equipment nonstop for those 8-hour shifts. They'll do a job, let it idle for a little bit, do a job, let it idle, but still it's designed to handle a full shift. If you are, let's say, in mining or some heavy duty manufacturing and you're operating 3 shifts nonstop, I would say that our product is not the right one for that. The charge times in between would just be too long for it. And buying 2 machines to do the job of one, it doesn't make sense.
Or
but
the old, or the old forklift model where you have another set of batteries for the forklift charging while the first one's operating, and then change them over at the shift point. So wouldn't be quite workable at 280 volts or 280 kilowatts. So
Exactly. We actually get that question quite a bit. Can you just hot swap the batteries? And I was like, have you seen the size of our batteries? We actually are, to be fair, we are exploring ways that we can solve that. But the key thing is safety as well. We're not looking for a solution that can work once and then we can, wipe our hands and be done with it and walk away. On a job site where they're constantly operating, they have a million things going on at once. One mistake where, they unplug something when it's charging, they tip a battery cell over or something of that nature unprotected. We don't want to hurt someone. So we're looking for innovation there. But until we find the right one, we're not going to put it in front of our clients.
Right. We have a question here from Yogesh, who asks, so what is the range of your vehicle in miles?
Well, fortunately, we have not had anyone drive our equipment on a highway for a range test. That's not the headline I want to have for heavy. Loader going 90 on the turnpike, running from the cops.
Drag racing a Tesla.
Well, I was going to ask what the 0 to 60 was on each of these vehicles because I didn't see it on the sheets.
So I can say 0 to 35 with our 5,000 pound, with our 40,000 pound loader, is right around like 2 to 3 seconds.
Oh my God!
We
seriously?
Yeah. So
I'd be accidentally going through the barn, to the side of the barn.
Yeah. So that was an advantage because behaviorism was key. So everyone that's been a veteran of diesel, you're used to that rolling buildup of the power and it goes. It's that diesel lurch, right? But being electric, it just goes. You step on that pedal and it goes. So that's the only 2-second adjustment for an operator. They hit the pedal, like, whoa. Whoa. Okay.
And it's off.
Yeah. But we actually have gotten some feedback. Some people love that sensitivity. They like that they can get the job done fast and just keep it going, reduce their time, for each load. But others had concerns. They expressed to us that, hey, because it's so fast, I don't want one of my guys to slam in the side of a rail car because they weren't paying attention. So actually, we continue to innovate. We continue to upgrade based off the feedback we get. And now it's a customizable scale. So a fleet operator can program what's the max speed for our equipment. Do I want it 35 because I'm running across a 150 acre yard? Or do I want it at 7 miles per hour because it's an indoor application and insurance would be happier? It's adjustable.
That's pretty cool. That's pretty cool.
So I wanted to ask, so the equipment is manufactured, I'm assuming, in China. Where are you guys, in Guangzhou or where?
So we are in outside of Hangzhou for that. And right now, the current model is we have a little under 1 million square foot facility where we create our drivetrains and transmissions. So we make our components over there. We ship those components over to the US to an assembly site that we have just outside of Baltimore, Maryland. And then we get them assembled here. Yep.
Oh, good. That's great.
Yep.
So you're shipping them over. We're beginning to have issues with traffic going through the Panama Canal, but if you're only shipping on parts, then they probably could go to the Port of Long Beach or something like that and then come over by train. Is that what you're doing, or are you?
The Port Authority, New Jersey, New York, and Port of Baltimore have been wonderful partners for us, but you're absolutely right. Right now, from a heavy standpoint, because we are an under promise over deliver kind of company, and since we're profitable, we're funding the entire operation of heavy with internal funds. So because of that, I don't have to do a song and dance for build up hype for investors to, buy massive size production sites before we're ready for it, before we have the sales.
Right.
I bring that up is because we're doing a responsible growth measure approach for it, or a responsible model. So we're actually utilizing sales to predicate the production behind it. So right now we're at a small scale. Because of that, that gives us a lot of flexibility at this stage. But as we scale up, as we penetrate the market, that's going to be a ever more challenging um, environment. And I will share, even for one of our most recent shipments, we actually are considering sending it to Long Beach and then trucking or railing it over because of the concerns. Yeah, that's actually very, very recent. But
it's a long voyage around Cape Horn.
It's true. It's true.
We only have a few more minutes, and I wanted to ask a few questions about financials. And so I see in 21, you guys did about 98 million top line and 90 million in 22. What was it for 23?
So for 23, we haven't reported the full year at this stage yet.
You can't say, or do you think it's going to be about the same or a little more?
We are on track to deliver roughly the same amount of sales standpoint. But the key thing that I always focus is to pay special attention to our trend on gross profitability and margin. That's the key thing, because that's been our focus for our component side of the business. We don't say that from a PR standpoint. We are the market leader. We have the largest market share as a third-party component manufacturer in our space. So, we have the Alexander problem. We've conquered, the market. Where do we go from here? So the key focus was then on profitability. So that's the big focus. We've been making our processes more efficient. As a high-tech company, we're actually continuing to invest into that high-tech to be leading edge, even dabbling into AI additive manufacturing processes at this stage to get the job done, and also in our product line as well that we talked about a little earlier on the call.
Yeah, and I noticed that your profitability each year is about 7% of revenues.
Yep,
And
from a net standpoint.
Yeah, so you're expecting probably about the same for 23, or that definitely something you can't say?
I would say that optimistically, it's gonna continue to creep higher up.
Nice.
And that factor, just to also point out and share, is also considering the entire expense to establish the heavy brand as well. That's a key thing, because there's a big variance between our gross and net margin, and that's part of it. Because we're not using just investor dollars to keep heavy afloat and keep the lights on. We're internally funded, so we can go about this the right way, and we're still profitable because we focus very heavily on the balance sheet to make sure that we don't overextend ourselves and bring down the whole house of cards.
Let's see.
Our final question here: will GTEC be presenting at any upcoming conferences in 2024?
Yes. The next one I know, we will be at a microcap conference in Atlantic City in New Jersey at the end of the month. And we're still finalizing our conference calendar for the year. So definitely you can check our website on that one, gtec-tech.com, GTEC-tech. Where we share our event participation there. But I always like to say, as a CEO, I have deck, will travel. So if there's any conferences you recommend, I'd be more than happy to learn.
Cool, good deal.
Love it.
Thank you.
I love it. No, we really appreciate you coming on today, and this has been a delight. You're a delightful person, and I like I said, I'm really fascinated because you've been able to accomplish a lot in the electric vehicle space. And I talk to Bill about this all the time. Everybody seems fragile in this space, and you guys are actually seem pretty, pretty damn solid. It's hard to even find, most companies that are publicly traded don't even make money. So, that it's something like 50 something percent of all public companies are not in the black. And, you guys are doing well. And so that's great. And hopefully you'll continue to grow. And anyways, Bill, unless you have any final questions.
We could go on. I want to talk to him about electric airplanes that might need that charger you guys developed, but that's for another conversation.
That's another discussion. Anyways,
absolutely. I will say one last thing as well. I'm so glad that we had a chance to meet at NobleCon, and I appreciate you writing about GTEC earlier. So now this just means the next step is we got to get you two behind the wheel.
Nice. That'd be awesome. That'd be awesome. Well, folks, I appreciate folks listening in, and if
And
you
thanks for the
don't
questions.
mind, yeah, thanks for the questions, and please hit the like button so these will get shared with more people. And Raymond, once again,